Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's lecture, we are going to study about the very important topic, which is shear center. Okay. So before proceeding to this topic, I'm assuming that you already know about the shear flow. If you have any doubt regarding the shear flow, how shear stresses are generated in the cross sections, you can refer to my previous lectures. Okay. So we will come directly to the topic. Shear center is a very important topic. Okay. So, proceeding to this topic, before moving to this topic, I would like to discuss something regarding the torsional resistance. Okay. So, in previous lectures, we have discussed about something called thin walled open sections. Okay, thin walled open section. Okay, these are those sections in which the thickness of the member, in which the thickness of the member, in which the thickness of the member thickness of the member is very less as compared to its width, or you can say that depth. Okay, let us suppose the depth of this cross section is h and thickness is t. Okay, so h is very greater than t, and this is an open cross section, so that's why we are calling it as a thin walled open section. Okay, if it is closed, let us suppose if it is closed, then it is called a thin walled closed section, or you can say that this is, here also the h is much greater than t. This is thin walled closed section. Okay, or it is a thin walled box section, you can say. So in this type of cross section, what is happening is that in this type of cross section, the torsional resistance of this type of cross section is very less. Okay, so the torsional resistance of these cross sections is very less. Okay, because why it is very less? Because as you guys have studied in strength of materials, the torsional stresses are maximum at the periphery of the cross section. Okay, so these are the reason where the torsional shear stress will be maximum. Okay, in these portions. Okay, but when the torsional stresses are maximum at this portion, but we are providing very less thickness at this point. Okay, so these type of cross sections are very susceptible to torsion. Okay, in this type of cross section are generally not designed for torsion. These type of cross section are generally not designed for torsion. Okay, they are supposed to be used in case of bending only. Okay, for torsion, these type of structures are very unsafe. Okay, because their torsional resistance is very less. Okay, so if the thickness is very small, then the torsional resistance of these type of cross section will be very less. Okay, so don't confuse with hollow section. Okay, because if let us suppose this is in cross section over here, this is a circular cross section, and this is a hollow type cross section. Okay, where we cannot ignore, where we cannot say that this thing h is much greater than this h is very greater than t is not holding in this case. Okay, here the thickness is sufficient. So in this case, or this is diameter basically. So in this case, the torsion resistance will be good. Why good? Because at the periphery we will have sufficient thickness, okay, to resist the torsion stresses. Okay, so this is not in thin walled open section. This is basically in hollow cross section. Okay, so this will behave good in resisting torsion. Similarly goes for box section. Box section, you know that box section will behave good in torsion. Oh, okay, why? Because the thickness is not very less. Okay, thickness is, compare this thing again. This is, let us suppose h to h. This condition will not hold in this type of cross section. So torsion resistance will be good for this cross section. Torsion resistance will be good for this cross section. Okay. Now we have to This thing should be very, very clear. Okay. Now, what is happening in that this cross section will have this thing centroidal axis, okay, which is symmetrical. So this axis is symmetrical axis, and this is unsymmetrical axis. Okay. So what is happening is that if I apply a load on the and if the plane of load is passing through this centroidal axis, then this cross section will have both bending and twisting. Okay, if this load passes to the plane of the load passes through the principal centroidal axis, this is centroid. Okay, this is centroid. So then you can say that this member will have both bending and twisting. Why we will have this twisting over here? We'll see as we move further in the lecture. Okay. So similarly, so in these type of cross sections, we need to find the point where we need to apply the load, so that this cross section will not have any twisting moment. Okay. So this is, let us suppose this is the point. Let us suppose this is the point E. So this load should pass from this point only. Okay, if this cross section should not have any twist, then this load should pass through the some shear center. Okay, this thing will when we move further in the lecture, we'll again see why this thing is happening. Okay, similarly, in case of thin walled cross section, what is happening here is that generally we study shear center for thin walled open section. Why? Because in that case, if our axis, when our load is applied along the axis, which is not symmetrical, means about which the structure is not symmetrical, then those cross section will have both twisting and bending. Okay, like in this case, you can see that this is the axis of symmetry, and this is our centroid. Okay. So if I apply a load over here, if I apply a load along this axis, okay, if I apply a load along this axis, then this cross section won't have any twisting. Okay, only bending will be there. Okay. So if I apply load at any other axis, at any other point, then this will have both bending and twisting. Like suppose if this is the cross section, okay, and this is our centroidal axis. So if I apply load over here at this point, then it will have both twisting and bending. Okay. So this member will fail in twisting, okay, because the torsion resistance of this member is very, very less, because this thickness is very, very less. Okay, H is very, very greater than T. Okay. So let us discuss one circular cross section. Okay. Let us suppose we have three type of cross section. Okay, this is hollow section, this is closed section, but it is thin walled, and this is thin walled open cross section. Okay, in this case, the torsion resistance will be good. Why? Because the thickness is sufficient enough to provide torsion resistance. Okay, the thickness at the periphery is sufficient. Okay, you cannot ignore this condition. Will not hold. Okay, this is not thin wall. This is the hollow cross section. Okay, and let us discuss one more cross section, which is solid cross section, but is circular. Solid cross section. Okay, so this is the hollow section. The torsion resistance will be good. Okay, now comes to this thin walled circular cross section. In this, torsion resistance will be less. Torsion resistance will be less. Again, same reason. At the periphery, the material is very less. But but at the periphery, the material is very less. But torsion resistance will be torsion stresses will generate at the periphery only. And that periphery you have provided very less material, so torsion resistance will be very less. Okay. Now comes to this thing. This is thin walled open section. The torsion resistance again will be very less. Okay, because this is thin walled and you have removed some material from here. Okay, already it is having very less material, and still you again remove some material from here. So the torsion resistance will be very less for this cross section. And now comes to the solid cross section. The torsion resistance will be maximum. Okay, so this is, let us suppose, one first, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Okay, so the torsion resistance of 1 will be maximum, then 2, then 3, then this is 4. Okay, so in this type, now what is happening in that, if this is the centroidal axis, if let us suppose this is the centroidal axis. Okay, and the material, you can say that is not symmetrical about these axes. Okay, so we need to find, if I apply a load about this axis, then there are chance that this material will have more twisting and bending. So we need to find one point where we need to apply load so that this section will not have any twisting moment. Similarly, in this case, this is our axis of symmetry. Okay, and if I apply load, along this axis of symmetry, then it will have only bending only. It won't have any twisting, because the axes are symmetrical. The section is symmetrical about both the axes. So if I apply load about this axis, along this axis, then it will have only bending only. Okay. In the previous example, this is our channel section, thin wall channel section. This is thin wall channel section. So this is our axis of symmetry, the centroidal axis. Okay. So let us suppose if I apply load along this axis, and this is the axis of symmetry. Then this cross section won't have any twisting. No twisting. Only bending will be there. So it is a very important conclusion is there. If I apply a load along the axis which is symmetrical, about which section is symmetrical, then that section will have only bending. Okay. So we'll see why we need to apply load at the shear center. What is happening basically? Why if I apply a load along the shear center, why there is no twisting? Okay, we'll see now. In the previous lectures, we have studied shear flow. We have studied shear stress distributions in these type of cross sections. Okay, this is one T-shaped cross section. Okay. And here we will have one I-shaped cross section. Okay, these are thin walled cross sections. Why? Because the thickness of this member is very small as compared to its width and its depth. Okay, but in this type of cross section, we didn't talk about shear center. Okay, why? Because this is our axis of symmetry. Or you can say that the principal axis. Okay. So this is our principal centroidal axis, and these axes are passing through the centroid. This is our centroid. Let us suppose this is centroid. Similarly for the I-beam case. Okay, these type of structures we have studied in the previous lectures. So in those structures we didn't talk about shear center. Why? Because the shear center of those cross sections are very easy to determine basically, and the load are assuming, and the load are acting along the principal centroidal axis. Okay, when load are acting along the principal centroidal axis, suppose this is the loading plane and the principal, when the load is acting along the coinciding with the principal centroidal axis, then in these type of structure we will don't have any twisting. Okay, we don't have any twisting. So while discussing those things, our principal centroidal axis and the load axis are coinciding. Okay, so in those structure we will have only bending. Okay, we'll have only bending. Okay, we'll see this thing in detail again. Now we'll come to those sections. Now we are coming to unsymmetrical sections where we'll have, this is one channel section which is open, thin walled open section. So in this is the principal centroidal axis. This is our principal centroidal axis. Now in this type of structure, what is happening is that when we apply load along when we apply vertical load along this principal centroidal axis, so this structure will not only bend but it will also twist. Okay, so in this type of structure, as this is an unsymmetrical axis. Basically, about this axis, the structure is unsymmetrical. Okay, but this is a principal centroidal axis. Okay, this is a structure is unsymmetrical about this axis, but this is a principal centroidal axis, right? Okay, so this is our centroidal point. This is centroid. Okay, so in this, when the condition is like that, when the load is passed through this principal centroidal axis, which is not an axis of symmetry, and this is, remember, this is not axis of symmetry. Okay, this is not axis of symmetry. In this type of condition, we'll have torsion plus bending. Okay, so this is an example of the unsymmetrical bending. Okay, this is one case of unsymmetrical bending where we'll have torsion plus bending. So in this type of structure, we need to take care of this torsion. Okay, and how we will take care of this torsion while applying the load along the shear center. And now we'll learn about the shear center. Now this thing we have discussed that what is the use of shear center, because if I apply load along this cross section like this axis, this member will twist. Why it will twist? We'll see now. Okay, so let us suppose we have a beam which have a cross section. This is a channel section, C section, or you can say that. And this is fixed at this point. Okay, this is a fixed at the end. Okay, now, and this is our what you call as principal centroidal axis, right? So what is happening over here is that if I apply a load along this principal centroidal axis, okay, if I apply a load P, let us suppose P load at this principal centroidal axis. Okay, now I am taking a section at a distance of an x. I am taking a section at a distance of an x, at a distance x. Okay, let us suppose I am taking a section x, or at a distance of x, I am taking a cross section over here, right? So what I want to show is that, let us suppose this is our channel section C, channel section over here. Okay, I am applying a load P over here. Okay, now I'll see what is my stress distribution at this section. Okay, So I'm taking, I'm thinking, I have shown this this cross section by this dotted line. Okay. So this is the load acting at P point, and this is our distance x. And what is the stress distribution at this location? Okay. Due to this P load, what is happening over here is that at this cross section, let us make it like this. Okay, at this cross section, my shear flow will be distributed. Shear flow will distribute like this. Shear flow will distribute like this. Shear flow will distribute like this. Okay. So this is shear flow will distribute like this. So this is our shear flow diagram basically. We'll have linear variation over here, and then we'll have some parabolic variation. These things we have already discussed in detail. Okay. So this is our shear, basically our shear distribution, right? At this cross section, at a distance of x, at this cross section, this will be the shear stress distribution. This will be the shear stress distribution because load is acting in this vertical downward direction, and to balance that load, we'll have some shear flow in vertical upward direction, right? So now the important thing comes over here. Okay, I can draw this cross section and show the force system like this. The net effect of this force, let us suppose, is F1 in this direction, F2 in this direction, and what? F3 in this direction. Okay. Just I integrated this shear flow, and I'm getting some F1 force at this segment, F2 force at this segment, and F3 force at this segment. Now, as you can see that P force is applying over here. P force is applying at this cross section. F1 is acting at this point. F3 is acting at this point, and F1, F2 is acting at this point. Now, for the equilibrium of this cross section, I can say that F3 must be equals to F3 must be equal to what? P. Yes, we can say, and F1 is equals to F2. Okay, this thing will cancel out each other. Right, for the equilibrium of section, this thing will be there. I'm not bothering about the moment right now. Okay, so what happened is that now what is happening is that, and this is our what principal centroidal axis. Okay, so if I want to draw the resultant of this force system at this cross section, if I want to, this is our P load, and at this cross section, if I want to draw the resultant what is the resultant force system, it will look like this. This is our principal centroidal axis, and this is, let us suppose, this is point O. Okay, so the force will be acting at this resultant force, F resultant will be equal to F3, and it is acting at a distance of some, let us suppose, some E distance. Okay, why this is happening is because if I take equilibrium about this cross section, if I take the equilibrium about this cross if this point, so what I can say that F and this distance, let us suppose this is D. So I can say that, as we know that F1 equal to F1 equals to F2, I can say that F1 into D must be equals to F3 into E. About this point, I'm taking the I want to take resultant with respect to this point, where the resultant is acting with respect to this point. So I'm taking the moment about this point. Okay, so my resultant force will act at a distance E. Okay, so at a distance E over here, right? So now you can see that this is nothing but internal resultant shear. Okay, we have some external shear P at this point, and at this cross section, P at this cross section, and we have some internal shear generating at this cross section. Okay, due to this external shear, I have some internal shear at this cross section. Okay, so this is our internal shear point, right? Now I can say that this now this cross section is having some torsion moment. Okay, some torsion is there in this cross section. The torsion moment is nothing but torsion moment due to internal shear, internal resultant shear is nothing but tau T equals to F resultant into E. Okay, about this point, right? So, so the torsion resistance about this torsion generating about this point is F resultant into E, which is nothing but F3 into E, or you can say that F3 into E. Okay, now our criteria, now the thing is coming. We need to resist this torsion moment, which is generated due to internal shear, How will resist? How will take care of this torsion moment? Now we'll see over here. Okay. What I'll do over here is that let us suppose this is X distance. Okay, and at this location we are applying P force, P external shear. Okay, and to balance this external shear, I am having some vertical force which is equals to F3. Okay, so from the equilibrium you can say that F3 is equals to P. Okay, now what I am doing over here, let us suppose this is some member over here. Now what I am doing over here, I am applying a load P. At a distance x, at a distance E from this point. Okay, what I am doing over here is that this is our system where the external load is acting. Now I am applying the external load at this point. Okay, why? We'll see over here. Now this is our condition actually. This P load is acting at this point. Okay. Internal shear will be the same thing. Internal shear will distribute like this only. Okay, and its resultant will act at a point E. Okay. So now what I can do is that I can transfer this P force along the axis this point. So I can transfer this P force again at this point, at this location, at this cross section. By applying the transfer will be, there will be some moment and plus this axial force. So if I want to transfer this force at this point, it will look like this. There will be some moment P into X and there will be some vertical force at this point P. Okay. Now at this location we'll have some I'm having some internal shear, the resultant of internal shear acting at this point, which is nothing but V. Okay, acting at a distance E. Okay, now when I transfer this force at this location, the same along this line, so the P force will act at this point only. Okay, but in downward direction. Okay, now you can see that this torsional resistance, this torsion is resisted by P into E. Okay, because the moment at this location V into E is balanced by P into E. So V into E will balance P into E. So our torsional we took care of. Now we took care of the torsional moment, right? So this is I just want to show that how this P force is resisting this torsion. Okay, I just transferred this P force over here, which I can do, and the moment P into X will be balanced by this P into balance for the equilibrium of this portion. This P into X moment will be balanced by the bending stresses which are generated at this cross section. Okay, so at this cross section we'll have some bending stresses also. Okay, and this cross section will have some bending stresses. So those bending stresses will take care of this P into X, and this torsion moment will be resisted by this P into E. So what is this point E? This point E is nothing but this is what we call shear center. When I apply load at this point, at the distance E from this point O, this is nothing but there will be no twisting. We'll have only bending. When I apply load at this point, there will be no twisting, there will be only bending. Okay. So by applying load at the shear center, how we apply load over here? I'll simply place some material over here. I'll simply place some material over here like this, and I can draw. Suppose this is our cross section, so I'll just make some material over here, and I keep a load P at this direction, P at this point, okay, at a distance E. So this is nothing but this is our shear center, okay. So if I don't apply load at this point, there is chances that this cross section will be under twisting, okay, and the twisting is generated due to the internal shear, due to this internal shear, okay. So now we have discussed about what is shear center and what is the use of this shear center, that our external load should pass through this shear center point, okay, and the shear center we have calculated with the help of the internal shear, okay. So as you can see that it is very important to know how the shear flow, before proceeding to this topic, how the shear flow is important to understand over here, okay. So our main thing is to calculate what is E, what is the value of E. D we already know. F3 we can calculate, okay. F3 is given P. F1 we can calculate, okay, by integrating this shear flow. So our E will be nothing but F1 into D over F3, right? Now the F is component. This F is the F constitute of F is nothing but it is P into AY bar over I into B, okay. So F constitute the P component. So it is, I can write P into AY bar over I into B, something like that. And F3 is nothing but F3 is equals to P. So P cancel out each other. So E is nothing. E is AY bar something DIB. Okay, it is the thing which I want to show is over here is that the shear center is depend upon the cross sectional property only. It doesn't depend upon the load. Okay, so if you apply the 10 kilonewton load, 20 kilonewton load, the shear center will always remain same. Okay, it is a cross sectional property. So this thing we learn from here that the shear center, the location of the shear center is only depend upon the cross sectional properties, right? So this is the basic idea which I want to give you regarding the shear center. Okay, 2-3 points which we'll learn. 2-3 points again. 2-3 points which again I want to discuss over here. So we have started in this is our channel section, right? This is our principal central axis. So I need to apply load at this location, okay? I need to apply load at this location. This is our P load to avoid any twisting, to avoid any twisting. If I rotate this member, this cross section by 90 degrees, let us suppose if I rotate this cross section by 90 degrees, okay. So what happening is that if let us suppose I rotate this cross section by 90 degrees, okay. I made this cross section like this, okay. Now if external load P is acting at this point, if acting at this external shear is acting at this location, so shear stress generation will generate like this, that it will oppose this vertical load. So shear stress will generate like this. Shear flow will generate like this. At this location it will be 0. Right? So you can say that for this component, for this segment we'll have some force F1, for this segment F2, and for this vertical segment we'll have some F3, and for this portion F4. So for the equilibrium, F1 must be equal to F2, which will cancel out each other, okay, and F3 plus F4 must be equals to P, okay, and it will also be equal. Why? Because it is symmetrical about this axis, so the forces will be symmetrical, okay. So F3 must be equal to F4, which is equals to P by 2, right? So when the condition like this, then I can, when the condition is like this, so if I want to calculate the resultant with respect to this point O, where the internal shear resistance will lie, so it will lie at this point only. So it will lie at this point only, which is nothing but F3 plus F4, which is equals to P. So the resultant is passing through this centroidal, this point only. Okay, this point only. So our internal shear, load, our external load should also pass through this point only. Okay, through this point only. So what we can say from this thing is that if I have a symmetrical cross section, this is a thin walled open cross section which is symmetrical about both the axes. So the intersection of these two axes will give me this is the shear center. Okay, that's why we don't bother about the shear center in case of I section, because we already know that what is the shear center. We'll simply keep the load along this principal axis. Okay, so there will be no bending, there will be no twisting. Okay, so this is the case. This is the shear flow. Shear flow will look like this. So our net force V, which is equals to P. This is nothing but internal shear. Okay. So resultant of the internal shear is passing from the point O only. Right? You can calculate this thing. It is very easy to calculate or easy to learn. Okay, the resultant will pass through this point. Okay, so our actual load will also pass through this point only. Okay, means this section is at a distance of an x. Right? We have already discussed this thing. Okay, so when we have both axes of symmetry, like here, the shear center will be the point of where both the axes are intersecting. Okay, so this is nothing but this is our shear center, right? And one more thing, in case of or sometimes in this C section, in this channel section, this is our axis of symmetry. Okay, so the resultant of internal shear and the axis of symmetry coinciding at this point. This is axis of symmetry. Okay, and this is nothing but the resultant of internal shear. Okay, so these are intersecting at this point. So this is also called the axis of symmetry. Okay, the intersection of the axis of symmetry and the resultant of the internal shear is also called nothing but shear center. Okay, it is also known as center of twist, and center of flexure. Okay, center of flexure. Okay, so this is the basic idea of the shear center. What is the meaning of shear center? How the torsional resistance is taken care of. This thing I want to tell you. I hope I made my point clear over here. Okay, and in the next lecture we'll see some problems with how to calculate the shear center for the cross sections. Okay, so basically the shear center will be important in case of the unsymmetrical section, where we have where the shear center is where the load is acting along the principal centroidal axis, and which is not the axis of symmetry. If this is the axis of symmetry, let us suppose if this is a box section and this is the axis of symmetry, then there will be no twisting. Okay, so if the load is applied along the axis which is not a symmetrical axis, then there will be chance that that section will be in bending. Then there will be chance that the section will be under twisting. Okay, so as we have already discussed that these thin members are very susceptible to resist torsion. So we need to provide load at the shear center location. Okay, so I think I made my point clear over here. While discussing the problem, the things will be getting more clear that how to calculate the shear center. Okay, so guys, if you have any problem regarding this topic, you can write in the comment section. Okay, so thank you very much.